As if our economy isn't facing enough headwinds already right now, with the ever so slightly rising unemployment, the horrible jobs reports that are coming out, inflation that's not going away, and an upcoming election cycle that we know is going to distort all this even further. HOA communities and even local cities are going broke, guys. And this is a big problem right now, apparently, because a lot of people have been sending me stuff about this from places that they live, places that they invest in. So I want to share some of these stories with you guys because these are real life accounts of places that are having real financial issues right now. This is not just like, a news story. This is a real account of things that are happening to real people. And the first one is from somebody who I forgot to write down their names. I don't know the name of who sent this to me, but they invest in a condo complex in Missouri called Brentwood Forest, okay? And it has 1,425 units there. That is a lot of units for any condo complex. It's actually one of the biggest condo associations in the entire country. And, I've been talking a lot about all the problems that we have here in Florida with insurance and the rising costs with that and how it's affecting condos and even just regular homeowners here. Well, it's happening in Missouri as well, guys. In fact, it's happening all over the place. Florida is just one of the worst spots that it's happening. They sent me this info from this condo that they own there. It's an investment property. They don't live there. And the insurance premiums for this condo complex just went up over 90%. He said that when he bought the condo back in 2021, the HOA fee was $225 per month. Now it's about $415 a month. And just in those 2 years, the HOA fee has literally doubled. And he also has to pay a $1,700 special assessment fee that's due in February of 2024 here. Apparently there's multiple buildings, there's multiple complexes here, and one of them wanted to get out of being with the condo association. They didn't want to be affiliated with it anymore. And so apparently they were successful at that. But what it did is it created a budget shortfall for the rest of the condo association to the tune of $2 million, guys. $2 million budget shortfall, okay? And get used to hearing that word, budget shortfall, because that's going to be the theme of this video and likely something you're going to hear a lot in 2024. They sent me this letter here from the condo association. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll skim through it for you. Basically, they had a meeting back in November of 2023, and the board determined they didn't have enough funds, so they need to raise some more money. Below, you can see the list of all the expenditures and all the shortfalls that they have, okay? 2023 insurance premium shortfall, that's almost $1.8 million right there. Building inspections, $100,000. Foundation repairs, $130,000. Foundation repairs, $40,000, $130,000. 2023 planned contributions to reserves, only $150,000 out of all of that. So the total amount that they need for 2023 for the shortfall is $2.3 million, okay? And you can see a list below of all the current special assessments here. And so what happened here also was that, as you saw with some of the budget shortfall, is one of the buildings was found to have structural issues, and it actually made it so that some of the units there had to be evacuated, and it's going to cost over $500,000 to fix this. Between those two things alone, it left the condo association with $0 in reserves to begin the year in 2024. And now the city of Brentwood, Missouri, where this condo complex is located, because of the structural problem with one of the buildings, they're ordering all 25 buildings to be inspected, which is 1,425 units, remember? That's where all these extra inspection charges are coming from. So of course the building has to pay for that as well. And they also say that now they believe that their condo has been blacklisted by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So no more getting a conventional loan there, which is also going to make it harder to buy and sell units. This person wrote me and says, Michael, these high HOA fees, these structural inspections on the way, being blacklisted by Fannie and Freddie Mac, these higher interest rates have made me feel a little bit uneasy about my recent investment. And they know that they bought at the right time when the numbers made sense. And they say that so far they can weather the storm. But anybody who recently bought, after this, like probably in 2022 or beyond, they're definitely losing money at this point. Those people are upside down on this. This story really just goes to show you how quickly things can change. And the thing is, like, condos get demonized for this. Like, okay, we had the structural problem. there was a special assessment, right? The insurance went up. Well, guess what? All that same stuff can happen to you in a house. The difference is that you get to decide what to fix and when, for the most part, unless it's an insurance related issue and you're not able to get insurance without making a certain repair, then obviously you're stuck and you have no choice unless you don't have insurance. But for the vast majority of people who are required to have insurance because they have a mortgage, will be pretty much screwed in a situation like that. So a lot of people think that this can't happen to them if they own a single family home, like all these houses you see behind me. But in fact, that is not true, guys. In fact, it could actually be worse because you're stuck with all of the repairs. At least in a big condo association like that, everybody's responsible for paying their fair share. But nonetheless, it does suck at the same time when stuff like this happens and it's not even affecting your unit. It's not like your building had the structural problem, a different one did, but everybody has to pay. And it's not even just condos that have these budget shortfalls, guys. I'm gonna get to another story later on that was sent to me from California about how an entire city is having a budget shortfall. But before that, let's stay on this condo track a little bit longer, because one of my viewers, let's call her Ann, she wanted to remain anonymous, so I'm giving her a name. Her name's gonna be Ann. She told me that where she lives, that an HOA community that has 36 units, okay, 4 of them sold last year, all over $500,000, and some of them $20,000 over asking price. And they were built 25 years ago. They're actually townhouses, but kind of the same thing. It's an HOA community. And their HOA fee is $475 a month. She said that new roofs are needed, but they don't have the money for them. There was no mention of the condition of roofs on any of the listings. And she's asking me, do the buyers or sellers need to let people know about these upcoming repairs? And the answer is a resounding yes. You know, there's a saying in real estate called disclose, disclose, disclose. Now, in the listing, on the description, they're not going to put, oh yeah, by the way, the building is in disrepair and needs new roofs, right? They're not going to put that. That's not a selling point of the property. They try to make everything look as good as possible in the listing description. However, when somebody goes under contract to buy this place, they will have to disclose this in the seller's disclosure if they want to avoid getting sued. And so Ann also said that she knows someone who bought a condo sight unseen, and the HOA dues are less than $100 a month. And the condo is almost 20 years old and they have a pool. And after a few months after moving in, her friend received a $3,000 special assessment, and she spoke to the neighbors and they said they have special assessments every year. And so Ann is wondering, like, how can condos get away with this? How can they get away with making these special assessments year after year without, you know, people that are buying right now knowing about this? And there's kind of like a catch to this, and I want to kind of explain this a little bit in this video. And the catch is that when you sell the unit, you have the seller's disclosure like we just talked about, and you have to disclose any and all current and maybe future special assessments that you're aware of that are coming. However, say if there are no future special assessments on the board yet that you know about, that they might come up still, but you don't have any knowledge of, that's not going to go on to that seller's disclosure, especially if there's been no formal notice of it yet. No one actually knows except for maybe a few of the board members that know that something's going to happen, right? And somebody asked me recently, I think it was in one of the comments or something, but it's highly related to this. And they said, hey, Michael, when you buy a condo like this, you know, don't they have to give you all the financials and stuff before making an offer? And the answer is no, at least not here in Florida, they don't. It definitely changes depending on where you live, guys. So first of all, here in Florida, if you make an offer on a condo, you're not going to have access to any of the condo documents, the rules or regulations or anything like that. Usually only the current owner has access to those documents, and they have to provide it to you after the fact, after you've already made an offer during your due diligence period. And if you don't get those documents, that's one of the reasons you're allowed to cancel the contract. Or if you see something in those documents that you're not happy with, you can also cancel the contract. But like, for example, when I was in California over the summer, I was looking at a bunch of different places over there, guys. I was very curious to see, you know, different real estate there. And I was talking to some of the real estate agents, and like in Marin County, for example, in the Bay Area, if you make an offer on a condo, even a house too, they give you all of those disclosures up front. So right away, the moment you make an offer, they give you all that stuff the day you make the offer, basically, or the next day, which is highly uncommon, at least here in Florida. You're not going to see that happen, which is actually a good thing because it saves a lot of time and effort and hassle on your end, on the buyer's end, and gives you more of a chance to review all this stuff. And you don't even have to go through all the headaches of requesting it and all of this. But that just goes to show you that depending on where you live, different documents may or may not be required to be given to you up front unless you request them. So make sure if you are going to be buying a condo or something like that, you do your research, guys. Do your own due diligence. Now, remember when I was saying earlier that it's not just HOAs that are having budget shortfalls and are basically bankrupt? Yeah. Well, one of my viewers, Joseph, he sent me a letter from the city of Benicia, California, which is up in the East Bay, over in the Bay Area. And he said that he actually left California in 2022 due to the cost and due to political reasons, and that this letter is from the city council over there, and his friend sent it to him because he has a friend that still lives over there. And basically what they want to do is, instead of cut the budget because they have such a shortfall, they'd rather increase your taxes, which is kind of the way they do things over there in California, right? And not only do they want to raise your taxes, but this is an area in California that's actually losing population. So they're trying to just suck even more money out of the people that are actually still living there. I'll put the letter up on the screen, guys, while I kind of go through some of this because it's kind of long. And you can stop it and pause it and read it, read the whole thing if you want to. I'm just going to try to paraphrase the most important points of it. Basically, they have a big budget deficit, and they put their budget together every 2 years for the city of Benicia. And they need to adopt a new budget before July of 2025. And as of right now, there's about a $6.5 million budget deficit. And it's an ongoing deficit, so right away their excuse is that we cannot just reduce one-time costs or apply one-time revenue to the $6.5 million deficit, but they could cut expenses, right? They could cut things out of the budget entirely. And then they go on to assure people saying, well, even though this might seem sudden, this has actually been an ongoing issue that the city of Benicia has had for quite some time. It's not fraud or negligence or mishandling the money or anything like that. It's just a problem that we're continually having that is finally coming to light. And they said that the problem is simple, is they don't have the tax base to support the level of services that they currently enjoy in the city of Benicia. Benicia's population has been in decline for the past 20 years and has only increased by 100 people in the last 20 years. And now they're seeing a loss in population. So clearly that's a problem for this city, right? You can't be losing people over a course of 20 years and expect people to be able to afford to pay all the bills. Also, they say there's been a lack of new development. There's only been 4 new commercial and industrial buildings constructed in the last 15 years, and all of the property tax revenue in the city isn't even sufficient to pay for public safety costs. Each year, Benicia's proceeds from property taxes $21 million. The cost for our police and fire services cost the city $26 million each year. This fact comes as a great surprise to many considering the high cost of housing here in Benicia. But the city only receives 26 cents on the dollar of property tax. So they even just said it themselves that their budget for fire and police is $26 million a year, guys. Well, obviously they could cut that down pretty dramatically, right? Benicia is not a very big town in California, so they could probably get rid of a lot of those firefighters and police officers, or cut back severely on the amount that's being contributed to their pensions, right? Because that's something that most people don't even get anymore, right? Most people that work jobs, they don't get pensions, but the police and firefighters usually do. And I would be willing to bet that a large chunk of that $26 million budget is going towards the pensions. So right away, I could see cuts that they could make there. So they say that cutting the salaries as a method to address the budget deficit is not a practical approach. The only option is to have fewer employees, which means changing our service model. Okay, so do it, change your service model, because obviously people are not going to want to pay this. They're not going to be voting for you, the people that are saying that you should have these increases, right? And they say that the degree of services which we have in our community is a direct reflection of the amount of investment that people in the community are willing to put into it. Like, well, yeah, no kidding. But look at all of the taxes and fees that people in California already have to pay that are just state related. And then you want to jack up the taxes in your local municipality to make up for your budget shortfalls, so that way you can continue paying the $26 million a year for police and firefighters. And next year it'll be $28 million. And the year after that it'll be $30 million. You know what I'm saying? It just keeps going up. Their salaries aren't going down. Their pensions are still getting contributed to. And no offense to police or firefighters who watch my videos, but you guys have to realize that most people don't get those pensions, guys, and those are pretty generous pensions most of the time. And when it's literally bankrupting a town, clearly that's not a sustainable business model. This is all just business. It's not personal. And they say, of course, no one likes to pay more taxes for anything, especially for services that you're already receiving, but we can't keep up with the cost. So they say that the most effective and efficient manner is to just expand our tax base on multiple fronts. So the city's going to be voting on this. The first thing they want to do is they want to increase the hotel tax and for short-term rentals from 9% to 13%. So that's obviously not going to affect the residents who live there, and I'm sure most of them will probably vote yes on that. But the next measure that they want to do is they want to increase the sales tax rate from 8.375% to 9.125%. That would help them generate an additional $5.4 million per year, they're saying. They give an example that if you were to go out to a restaurant in Benicia and your dinner bill was $88.50, the tax you would pay would be $7.41, and the city would receive $1.88 from that. But if the tax increase goes through, your tax bill would be $8.07 rather than $7.41, which is only an increase of 66 cents. So basically they use this small example, right, to try to make it seem like it's not a big deal. Like, oh yeah, your dinner bill is just going to go up by 66 cents. Well, what happens when you buy a new car? Oh, taxes on those are pretty expensive, right? Especially since everybody's buying those expensive cars, Teslas and stuff in California. What happens when you buy a new TV that costs $2,000? What happens when you buy more expensive things, right? The taxes are going to be higher, yeah? So their answer to everything in California seems to be just, let's raise the taxes, guys. And so far, that strategy statewide has been a massive failure. And proof of that is how many people are leaving. Even the city of Benicia themselves is saying that over a 20-year period, they have actually only gained 100 people, and they're actively losing population, guys. Why do you think that is? It's because it's unaffordable. It's because people are tired of paying these ridiculous taxes, and their solution is to raise the taxes to keep paying, you know, these high firefighter and police salaries and pensions, essentially, is what I gather from this. And you're all just going to have to suffer and pay that extra increase, so that way these guys can have the cushy retirement. Meanwhile, you get to have no retirement, and you're going to be working till you're dead to pay for this. And this is a huge problem in California, guys, because not only are you seeing these budget shortfalls, well, first of all, let me back up a little bit. One thing I wanted to touch on here is now you're seeing entire cities that have budget shortfalls, not just condos, right? So one thing I want to advise people of, anybody who's going to be buying a house or a condo, doesn't matter what kind of real estate you're going to be planning on buying in the next year or two, whenever you're going to be buying your next property, make sure, guys, to not only vet the property, the condo association, if there is one, or the HOA community, to see what their budget is, but I would also be now looking at the city's budget, you know, to see, is the city that you're investing into going broke? Are they having trouble? Because clearly this is becoming more and more of an issue, and I would expect it's going to become more of an issue in places like this that are losing population. So if you know that you're looking at buying a property in an area that's losing population like this, then you owe it to yourself to look into the budget of the city, because you could be seeing different taxes go up. And notice that in this letter, they didn't say they were going to raise property taxes, but I'll bet you if these measures don't go through, if people do not vote yes for this, that'll be the next thing they come after, is higher property taxes, guys. And in a place like that, where property values are insanely high, you can just imagine where it goes from there. And so what they're doing is they're systematically, pricing people out of the state little by little. And it's going to get to the point where only the extremely rich people can afford to live there, and they're not going to want to live there and pay all these taxes. I just saw another story about California talking about how the PG&E bill over there is going to be seeing the largest increase ever. That's like the gas and electric bill over there in California. And now it's estimated that the new household bill for PG&E will be about $300 per month from now on. And that's kind of on the low end. And the crazy thing is, they want everybody to drive an electric car over there. They want everybody to have the electric leaf blower. They want to get rid of gas-powered everything in California, so that way you have to charge everything. And yet the electric bill is now starting to go through the roof, the biggest increase ever. And people are freaking out about this. The power company themselves, PG&E, they even came forward and said that this increase is necessary in order to support the added pressure and the strain on the electrical grid due to all the electric cars. Imagine that. And I've heard this before. I've heard this from people that watch my channel, that are electricians and work on the power grid. Many of them have come forward in my comment section and told us how our power grid throughout the entire country simply is not set up for this electric car wave that they want to happen, guys. Like, we literally don't have the infrastructure, and it will take decades to build the infrastructure. All these ridiculous timelines that they're setting for themselves, saying, oh, we need to have all electric cars by 2030 or 2035 or whatever, is a complete sham, guys. Like, there's no way that we're going to be able to make that happen. And really, the idea isn't really to trash electric cars here, but it's more just to show how unrealistic all these plans that are set in place are right now. Because the government thinks that they can just make these regulations and say, oh, we need to have all electric cars by 2035 in the state of California, but yet we can't even charge all the ones we have right now without jacking up everybody's electric bill and pricing them out of their own homes, right? It's just like, why don't you guys worry about how many people you're losing every year? Why don't you guys worry about all of your residents that are homeless on the street over there? Why don't you guys worry about, regular people that are barely able to survive right now with this massive cost of living that you guys have? Like, do something about that stuff first before trying to tackle these futuristic issues that have no merit to be worried about right now and put a strain on everybody today. You know what I'm saying? Maybe if they could figure out how to lower the cost of living in California, then they would have less people on the street. Maybe they would be able to make it so they could increase the power bill without bankrupting people. You know what I'm saying? Same thing goes with the city of Benicia, guys. Like, oh no, let's just raise the taxes on everything, and then that'll be enough to make up for the budget shortfalls. Well, yeah, until it's not, right? Until it's not enough to make up for it, and when you get hit with the next tax increase, because that's how they handle everything over there. It's the next tax increase, the next tax increase. It's not sustainable. So that's the problem with it. But one major overarching thing that you guys can gather from this video is that there are condo associations, there are HOA communities, there are entire cities, there are counties in this country that are literally broke right now, that are going to resort to extreme, desperate measures to get the money they need to make up for these budget shortfalls. And guess who's going to be paying for it? You. All of us are. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.